Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment and regretted it later? Have you ever made a decision out of frustration or fear only to wish you had waited just a little longer? That's the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is automatic. It's driven by emotion, impulse, and habit. Responding, on the other hand, is intentional. It's the result of thought, wisdom, and control. When something unexpected happens, most people react instantly. It's almost instinctive. Something upsets you, and before you know it, words fly out of your mouth, your emotions take over, and you're caught in a moment you might regret later. This is the nature of reacting. It's automatic, impulsive, and often dictated by emotion rather than thought. But here's the key. A reaction is not a response. A response requires thought, patience, and perspective. And the way to build that response is to pause before you act. The pause is powerful. It creates space between what happens to you and what you choose to do about it. That space is where wisdom lives. It's in that brief moment where you get to decide, will I handle this with patience and intelligence, or will I let my emotions take the lead? Most of the mistakes people make in life are not because they lack intelligence or ability, but because they acted too quickly without thinking. They spoke before considering the impact of their words. They made decisions in frustration only to regret them later. But if you learn to pause, even for a few seconds, you give yourself an advantage. You take back control. Pausing before you act isn't about being slow or indecisive. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that not everything requires an immediate reaction. When emotions rise, whether it's anger, excitement, fear, or frustration, your mind is in a heightened state. In these moments, you are more likely to react in a way that does not serve you. The pause allows you to break free from that emotional grip. It allows logic and reason to step in. And when logic steps in, your response improves. Think about the last time you were in a heated argument. Maybe someone said something that hurt or offended you. Your instinct might have been to lash out, to defend yourself, to prove a point. But what if you had taken a breath instead? What if you had paused for just a few seconds before responding? You would have given yourself the chance to assess whether your words were necessary, whether they would escalate the situation or bring clarity. Those few seconds could be the difference between deepening a conflict or diffusing it. The same principle applies to decision making. When faced with a tough choice, the impulse is to do something, anything, just to get it over with. But the best decisions are rarely made in a rush. The most successful people understand the value of taking a moment to think. They don't allow urgency to force them into a reaction. They pause, they reflect, and they move forward with confidence. Training yourself to pause before you act is not easy at first. It requires awareness and practice. But over time, it becomes second nature. The more you exercise this discipline, the more control you gain over your responses. And the more control you have over your responses, the better your outcomes in life will be. Emotions are a powerful force. They can lift you to great heights or pull you into deep frustration. They can inspire action or paralyze progress. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle is not the presence or absence of emotions, it's the ability to master them. Most people let emotions control them. They let anger dictate their words, fear shape their decisions, and frustration steal their focus. But the key to a better life is not suppressing emotions, it's mastering them. Mastery begins with awareness. You must first recognize when an emotion is taking control. Many people go through life reacting without understanding why they feel the way they do. They lash out in anger, retreat in fear, or allow disappointment to drain their energy. But the person who masters their emotions takes a step back and observes. Instead of saying, I am angry, they say, I am experiencing anger. That small shift in language creates a gap between emotion and identity. It allows you to see the emotion as separate from who you are, giving you the power to manage it rather than letting it manage you. Once you become aware of your emotions, the next step is to understand them. Emotions are messengers. They exist for a reason. Fear can signal caution, anger can highlight injustice, and sadness can reveal what truly matters to you. But while emotions provide valuable insight, they are not always the best guides for action. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean you should act in anger. Just because you feel afraid doesn't mean you should avoid the challenge. Mastering emotions means learning from them without being controlled by them. One of the greatest tools in emotional mastery is learning to pause. When an emotion rises, most people react instantly. They snap in frustration, speak in haste, or make decisions clouded by temporary feelings. But if you can pause, just for a moment, you give yourself time to assess. You give yourself the space to ask, is this emotion helping me or hurting me? That moment of pause allows reason to enter the equation. It gives you the ability to choose your response instead of being a slave to your reaction. Another key to mastering emotions is shifting your focus. Where your mind goes, your emotions follow. If you dwell on problems, frustration grows. If you focus on solutions, confidence builds. If you replay past mistakes, guilt lingers. If you focus on lessons learned, wisdom grows. You are in control of what you focus on. And by shifting your perspective, you can shift your emotional state. Emotional mastery is not about being emotionless. It's about having the strength to feel deeply while staying in control. It's about using emotions as tools, not shackles. The person who masters their emotions is not the one who never feels anger, fear, or sadness. It's the one who feels them fully, yet chooses to respond with wisdom and strength. Most people listen to reply, not to understand. They hear words, but they don't hear meaning. They react to what is said instead of seeking to understand why it was said. And this is where many conflicts, misunderstandings, and missed opportunities arise. Not because people lack intelligence, but because they lack the patience to understand before they react. But those who master the art of seeking understanding gain an advantage in life. They make better decisions, build stronger relationships, and create more opportunities because they are not ruled by assumption or impulse. Seeking understanding requires a shift in mindset. Instead of instantly reacting to a situation, a comment, or a challenge, the goal is to pause and ask, what is really happening here? Many times what appears to be an attack is actually a misunderstanding. What seems like resistance may be fear. What feels like disrespect may simply be a different way of thinking. When you take the time to see beyond the surface, you respond with wisdom rather than emotion. One of the greatest skills in seeking understanding is learning to ask the right questions. Instead of reacting with frustration, ask, what do they really mean? Instead of assuming someone's intent, ask, what perspective are they coming from? Questions open the door to clarity. They give you the power to see situations as they are, not just as they appear in the heat of the moment. A person who asks questions before reacting will always have more control over their emotions, their actions, and their outcomes. Understanding also requires listening, not just to words, but to tone, intention, and context. Most people hear what is said, but few take the time to grasp what is meant. When someone speaks in frustration, there is usually something deeper behind it. When someone is defensive, there is often fear underneath. Instead of reacting to the surface, learn to look deeper. The ability to listen beyond the words allows you to respond in a way that brings resolution instead of conflict. A critical part of seeking understanding is recognizing that your perspective is not the only perspective. Everyone sees life through their own experiences, beliefs, and challenges. What seems obvious to you may not be obvious to someone else. The way you process information is not the way someone else does. When you embrace this reality, you stop expecting people to think, act, and respond the way you would. Instead, you begin to appreciate the diversity of thought, which leads to greater patience, empathy, and wisdom. When you train yourself to seek understanding before reacting, you position yourself for greater success. You handle challenges with clarity instead of chaos. You build trust instead of tension. You make decisions based on insight rather than impulse. Most people live in a cycle of reaction, constantly jumping from one emotional response to another. But the few who seek understanding rise above that cycle. They gain control over their emotions, their relationships, and ultimately the direction of their lives. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant in it will grow. If you fill it with negativity, fear, and doubt, those weeds will take over your thoughts, shaping the way you see the world and limiting what you believe is possible. But if you plant seeds of positivity through what you read, what you listen to, and the people you surround yourself with, you create a mindset that fuels growth, confidence, and success. The quality of your input determines the quality of your output. If you want to change your results in life, you must first change what you feed your mind. Most people don't realize how much negative input they absorb daily. The news is filled with problems. Social media is full of comparison and distraction. Conversations are often centered on complaints rather than solutions. And over time, without even realizing it, this negativity seeps into the subconscious mind, shaping beliefs and behaviors. When you constantly consume fear-based messages, you start living in fear. When you expose yourself to pessimism, you develop a habit of seeing the worst in situations. Your mind becomes conditioned to expect problems rather than opportunities. This is why training your mind with positive input is not just a suggestion, it is a necessity if you want to live a successful and fulfilling life. The first step in training your mind is being intentional about what you allow in. You must become a gatekeeper of your thoughts, filtering what serves you from what harms you. What books do you read? What conversations do you engage in? What kind of content do you consume daily? Every piece of information you take in is either lifting you up or pulling you down. Choose wisely. Feed your mind with books that inspire growth. Listen to speakers who challenge and encourage you. Surround yourself with people who push you to become better. The more positive input you absorb, the stronger your mindset becomes. Repetition is key. Just as physical exercise strengthens the body through consistent effort, mental training works the same way. You can't expect to read one motivational book or listen to one inspiring message and instantly transform your mindset. It requires daily conditioning. Every morning, start with something positive, a book, a podcast, or even a few minutes of gratitude. Throughout the day, be mindful of what you let in. When negativity arises, counter it with a positive perspective. Over time, these habits rewire the way you think, replacing old patterns of doubt with new patterns of confidence and resilience. One of the most powerful aspects of positive input is that it changes not only how you think, but also how you act. When your mind is filled with empowering beliefs, you approach challenges differently. You see setbacks as lessons instead of failures. You respond to adversity with strength instead of frustration. You take action with faith rather than fear. Training your mind with positive input is not just about feeling good, it's about creating a foundation for success in every area of life. Life is full of uncertainty. Unexpected challenges arise. People behave in ways you can't predict, and circumstances often shift without warning. Many people waste their energy worrying about things they have no control over, what others think, what the economy will do, how someone will respond, or whether conditions will ever be perfect. But the truth is, the more you focus on what you can't control, the more powerless you feel. The key to a stronger, more resilient mindset is learning to shift your focus to what you can control. Your attitude, your actions, your decisions, and your effort. Most people live in reaction mode, constantly adjusting their emotions based on external circumstances. If things go well, they feel good. If something goes wrong, they feel defeated. Their happiness, confidence, and motivation are all tied to things outside of their control. But those who understand the power of focusing on the controllables develop an unshakable foundation. They don't let outside noise dictate their inner state. They don't allow external events to determine their sense of peace. Instead, they train themselves to focus on what they can do, no matter what happens around them. The first step in controlling the controllables is identifying what truly belongs in your sphere of influence. You can't control other people's opinions, but you can control how you respond to them. You can't control the economy, but you can control how you prepare for financial challenges. You can't control whether opportunities come to you, but you can control how much effort you put into creating them. When you stop focusing on what you wish you could change and start focusing on what you can change, you regain your power. A common trap people fall into is overanalyzing what-if scenarios. What if things don't work out? What if I fail? What if they don't like me? This kind of thinking drains energy and fuels anxiety. The way to break free is to shift the focus back to action. Ask yourself, what is within my control right now? Maybe you can't control the outcome, but you can control your preparation. Maybe you can't control someone's opinion, but you can control how you carry yourself. When you commit to action rather than worry, you move forward with confidence instead of fear. Training your mind to focus on what you control is a skill that develops over time. Every day, life will present you with distractions, things that try to pull you into frustration, stress, or doubt. But with practice, you can train yourself to redirect your energy. You can remind yourself that complaining changes nothing, worrying solves nothing, and blaming others gets you nowhere. The only thing that moves you forward is focusing on what you can do, taking ownership of your actions, and making the best decisions with what's in front of you. When you master this mindset, you develop a sense of control, not because life is predictable, but because you have trained yourself to stay steady no matter what life brings your way. Most people are focused on the immediate, the next task, the next paycheck, the next opportunity. They make decisions based on short-term emotions rather than long-term wisdom. When challenges arise, they get frustrated because they only see the setback in front of them. When results don't come quickly, they feel discouraged and give up. But those who achieve real success in life understand the power of a long-term perspective. They don't just think about where they are today, they think about where they want to be years from now. They don't just react to the moment, they make choices based on the bigger picture. A long-term perspective changes how you approach every challenge, every goal, and every opportunity. Instead of looking for quick wins, you start building lasting results. Instead of getting impatient when success doesn't come overnight, you commit to the process, knowing that meaningful progress takes time. This mindset separates those who merely start things from those who finish them. It's the difference between someone who tries something for a few weeks and gives up, and someone who sticks with it long enough to see real change. The ability to think long-term also helps you make better decisions. In the heat of the moment, emotions can cloud judgment. When you're angry, you want to react. When you're tired, you want to quit. When you're tempted by an easier path, you may want to take it. But when you develop the discipline to step back and ask, how will this decision affect me a year from now, 5 years from now, you gain clarity. You stop making choices based on how you feel today and start making them based on where you want to be in the future. Success in any area, whether it's health, finances, relationships, or career, comes from consistent effort over time. A long-term perspective helps you stay committed when results are slow. It reminds you that every small effort adds up. The workout you do today may not show results tomorrow, but over months and years, it will transform you. The money you save today may seem insignificant, but over time, it creates financial freedom. The skills you develop, the knowledge you gain, the habits you build, they all compound. Obstacles and failures are inevitable, but when you think long-term, setbacks become less discouraging. You start seeing them as part of the process rather than reasons to quit. A short-term mindset sees failure as the end. A long-term mindset sees it as a lesson. Instead of getting frustrated when things don't go as planned, you adjust, learn, and keep moving forward. Developing a long-term perspective is one of the most valuable skills you can cultivate. It brings patience when results are slow, wisdom when making decisions, and resilience when facing adversity. The future belongs to those who are willing to invest in it. When you stop focusing on immediate gratification and start thinking in years instead of days, you put yourself on the path to lasting success and fulfillment. Success is not built on a single moment of inspiration. It is built on habits, small repeated actions that over time create massive results. Most people start with excitement. They set a goal, make a plan, and feel motivated. But motivation fades, and when it does, they stop. They look for shortcuts, get discouraged when results don't come fast enough, and fall back into old patterns. But those who understand the power of practice know that habits are not formed overnight. They are built through daily discipline, through consistent effort, through showing up even when they don't feel like it. The key to building any habit is repetition. The more you do something, the easier it becomes. At first, it may feel unnatural or difficult, but the brain is designed to adapt. The more you practice, the more automatic it becomes. A person who wants to get in shape doesn't transform their body in one workout. A person who wants to master a skill doesn't achieve excellence after one attempt. The results come from doing it again and again until it becomes second nature. Success is never about what you do once, it's about what you do consistently. Most people struggle with habits because they focus too much on the big picture and not enough on daily action. They get overwhelmed by how far they have to go instead of focusing on what they need to do today. The secret to building strong habits is breaking them down into simple, manageable steps. If the goal is to read more, start with 10 minutes a day. If the goal is to exercise, start with a few minutes of movement. The hardest part is starting, but once you start, momentum builds. Small actions done consistently lead to big results over time. Another reason people struggle with habits is that they wait to feel motivated before they take action. But motivation is unreliable. Some days you will feel inspired and some days you won't. If you only take action when you feel like it, you will never build lasting habits. Discipline is what keeps you going when motivation fades. It's the commitment to doing what needs to be done even when it's inconvenient. The more you practice showing up despite how you feel, the stronger your habits become. Practice also means embracing mistakes. No one gets everything right the first time. Many people quit the moment they struggle, believing they have failed. But failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process. Every mistake is a lesson, every setback an opportunity to improve. Those who succeed are not the ones who never fail, but the ones who refuse to quit. They keep practicing, keep learning, keep adjusting until their habits are so deeply ingrained that they become effortless. Building a habit through practice is not about intensity. It is about consistency. It is about showing up every day, even in small ways, and allowing those small actions to compound over time. The person who commits to daily improvement will always surpass the one who relies on occasional bursts of effort. Success belongs to those who master the power of practice. Mastering the mind is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong commitment. It requires awareness, discipline, and the willingness to grow every single day. The difference between those who react to life and those who respond with wisdom is the work they put into training their mindset. Every time you pause before acting, every time you seek understanding instead of reacting, every time you choose to focus on what you can control, you strengthen your ability to navigate life with clarity and confidence. Success, fulfillment, and resilience are not reserved for the lucky. They belong to those who build the right habits through practice. It's about consistently feeding your mind with positive input, choosing the long-term perspective, and staying committed to the process even when results are not immediate. The real transformation happens not in a single breakthrough, but in the small daily choices that shape who you become. So take control. Train your mind to respond, not react. Approach life with intention, with patience, and with a commitment to mastery. Because in the end, the quality of your life will be determined by the quality of your mindset.